When Google announced its new Pixel phone, it was quite clear which audience they were targeting, and that audience was mainstream buyers. Google is marketing the Pixel like they've never marketed a phone before. But how does the new Pixel XL stack up against Apple's latest, the iPhone 7 Plus? It's pretty obvious that Google wanted just this, a battle for the top spot. But does the Pixel XL pack enough heat? So as far as design goes, it's easy to see that both companies didn't put a lot of effort into overall aesthetics for their phones, both for different reasons of course. Apple's iPhone has looked the same for 3 generations with minor differences here and there, yes, but really, the iPhone has looked the same since 2014. Google on the other hand decided to go with functionality over a flashy design with the Pixel, and while some people really don't care how the phone looks that much, a lot of people really do care what their phones look like. Google played it safe with this one, and to be honest, can't really blame them for that, seeing as how this is their first real attempt at designing their very own phone. But man, those bezels though. And this chin? Don't get me started. Also, this back panel, it's sort of an acquired taste, and I'll be real with you, it's kind of growing on me. Not because I think it looks cool, but because it's something different. It's pretty interesting. Looks aside, both phones are extremely solid and well put together with glass and aluminum, so premium build quality is not a problem here. Continuing on with the hardware, both have fingerprint readers, the Pixel XLs being on the back, just like the 6P from last year and LG's devices from this year. In terms of speed and accuracy, both do a great job in these categories. In my use, I rarely ever have to reposition my finger due to a misread or anything like that, so both are great. Nothing to worry about there. Now, one thing to worry about is the fact that the iPhone now has stereo speakers and the Pixel XL does not. This is something that really confused me, seeing as how one of the reasons the Nexus 6 and 6P were so great was because they both had front-firing stereo speakers. So Google, it would only make sense for you to equip your latest flagship with that, right? I mean, it's not like there isn't space for another speaker on the front. And if not dual front-facing speakers, at least go the HTC and Apple route by keeping one on the bottom and use the speaker on the top front as the second. It's a simple concept that Google overlooked. What a shame. Now, the good thing here is that the speaker on the Pixel XL still sounds pretty decent. It gets nice and loud, it's not tinny, and it's better than expected, but it could have been a lot better. Another advantage that the iPhone has over the Pixel XL is water resistance. The 7 Plus has an IP67 rating, which means it can actually withstand a good dunk in the pool. You could take a shower with it and stuff like that, no problem. The Pixel XL has an IP53 rating, which means practically nothing. This too is really a shame. I mean, there's going to be a point in time where your phone meets water, whether it be accidental or not. It's just going to happen. But it's just another box that Google really didn't get a chance to check. Now, neither phone has wireless charging, but the Pixel XL does have USB power delivery, which is about the same speed as Quick Charge 3.0 as long as you use compatible chargers. Speaking of charging these phones, the great thing about it is that I rarely have to do just that. The battery life with both of these devices is very good. Now, I will have to give the nod to the 7 Plus for having better, more consistent and reliable battery life, but the Pixel XL's battery life is nothing to sneeze at. At least in my usage, I can get through a full day without having to worry about charging until I go to bed, so you'll be very pleased with the battery performance on both devices. Moving on to the screens, this is where the Pixel XL shines. You're looking at a 2K AMOLED panel here, super crisp and clean as you'd expect, while on the iPhone, you're still stuck with the 1080p Retina display. Now, I'm not saying that the iPhone's display is bad or anything like that, but after using the Pixel XL and then looking over at the 7 Plus's display, it's a bit of a letdown. But don't get it twisted, both of these 5.5-inch panels look very, very nice. And then there's the software. Android versus iOS. Now, this one's up to you. Both devices run the respective OS's latest software version, iOS 10.1 and Android 7.1 Nougat. They each have their selling points and downsides, and they both have little tricks up their sleeves. Now, without going into too much detail, you've got things like Raise to Wake on the iPhone, and this is something that we could have seen on the Pixel as we saw this feature on last year's Nexus devices. You've got 3D Touch, which is thankfully slowly growing in usefulness. You can finally clear all notifications and a whole lot more. Even though iOS continues to grow, certain things like notifications are handled much better on the Android side of things. Not to mention, there's true multitasking. You can actually set default applications, and don't even get me started on all of the customization options. And then of course, both operating systems have their own personal assistants. We have Siri and Google's new Google Assistant. Now, Google Assistant is pretty much spearheading the whole Pixel movement, and I have to say, it works really well. Now, as far as which one is better, this one's really up to you. For me, I personally prefer Google Assistant. While iOS is more user-friendly, better optimized, and simpler, Android just does more for me. And of course, this is all left up to opinion. Oh, and it appears as if the days of Android lag are over, at least as far as the Pixel is concerned. This is the smoothest, fastest Android phone that I've used along with the OnePlus 3. And I've even gotten my 7 Plus to lock up on me and freeze a couple times. But overall, just using both phones is an absolute breeze. As you'd expect, they handled everything that I threw at them like a bunch of bosses. From bouncing between applications, browsing social media, playing heavy games, all that good stuff without a hitch. Now, I didn't bother to run any speed tests or anything like that, and frankly, I don't get the point of doing that myself. I base things off of pure, real-world performance, and both are blazing fast. Forget what the spec sheets say. Now getting into something that really surprised me, and that's the cameras. Unsurprisingly, the 7 Plus has an incredible camera. Well, cameras with that dual action on the back, and it also has optical image stabilization, or OIS, for nice, steady video footage. iPhone cameras are always very, very solid, and they're among the most preferred among everyday users. Now surprisingly, the Pixel XL also has an incredible camera. Now I say surprisingly because even though Google stated that DxOMark said that this camera was the best camera in a phone, that was at a launch event, and we're not always going to believe what they say right off the bat. We gotta wait until we get a taste ourselves. But no, it's true. This just might be the best smartphone camera on the market. Now personally, I believe it's truly up to the user. In some situations, the 7 Plus performs better, and in others, the Pixel XL comes out on top. In all honesty, it's a toss-up. Some say that the Pixel XL's camera is better, some prefer the iPhone's camera, but overall, in my experience with what I've seen so far, I've come to prefer the shots I've taken with the Pixel XL. Now we can mainly attribute this to HDR+, and the great thing about this is that while it's enabled by default, you probably wouldn't be able to tell at first because this camera is so fast. It reminded me of snapping pictures with a Galaxy device. Now the bad part about the Pixel XL's camera is that it lacks OIS, but what it does have is EIS, or electronic image stabilization. This is basically a software trick to get you some super clean and steady video footage, and while it does a great job, when you start to move around and pan, the software starts to hunt for something to lock onto, and footage can look somewhat jagged and perhaps unnatural. It all depends on the type of footage you're going for. Either way, in my opinion, both are easily top 3 in the smartphone camera department, and as for which one is the best, I'd have to give the slight edge to the Pixel XL, but ultimately, it's up to you guys. So with the Pixel, Google is really targeting a specific demographic. Everyone. Google made a phone that they want everyone to be using. The fact that the Pixel lacks a lot of what we consider to be elementary features like a more attractive design, stereo speakers, and water resistance really begged the question, is it worth it? After all, the Pixel runs for the same exact price as the iPhone now. The baseline Pixel starts at $650. It's got a 5-inch 1080p display and 32 gigabytes of storage. Now when you compare that to the Nexus 6P from last year, that started at $499 with a 5.7-inch 2K AMOLED display, and it had stereo front-facing speakers. Enough said, right? But of course, the price is this way because it's going head-to-head with the iPhone. Google's first in-house attempt at an iPhone killer was a good one, but it just doesn't meet the standard that I at least initially set for it. But it's not the end of the world. Google will take what they learned with the first Pixel, and they'll look to come back swinging with the second generation Pixel. With all of this being said, my SIM card will more than likely end the year in the Pixel XL. Reason? Well, I actually already made a video on this, and I'll link it in the description. Pound for pound, a lot of people will say that the iPhone just might have the upper hand here. For me, I still prefer to use the Pixel XL. It's still that good despite what it lacks. So which phone do you guys pick? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. We always welcome your feedback. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to the Android Police channel if you haven't already. That does it for me. I'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for watching.